A firm holding more than $13 trillion of client assets just published a list of 5 money traps quietly draining American savings. 4 of them you could fix by the end of this weekend, because all 4 leave a receipt, a fee, a panicked sale, a pile of cash sitting still, a portfolio crowded into one place. The first one does not, and that is exactly why it is the expensive one. It does not take dollars from you. It takes years. Here is the list, and I am going to read it once, plainly, the way Schwab published it. 1. Putting off retirement saving and losing years of compounding. 2. Not building or not keeping an emergency fund. Their suggested size is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. 3. Selling investments during a sharp decline instead of holding. 4. Sitting in too much cash and missing the recovery. 5. Crowding a portfolio into one stock, one sector, one type of asset. Now, notice something about how that felt to hear. It felt organized. Lists do that. A list turns a vague worry into 5 boxes, and 5 boxes feel like a plan. That feeling is worth being suspicious of, because it arrives before any of the work does. You can read a list, feel the relief of having understood it, and change nothing. I have watched myself do it. The relief is real, and the progress is imaginary, so we are not going to do that today. We are going to notice that this list has a seam in it, and that the seam is the whole point. Look at traps 2 through 5 again. An emergency fund you never built. A sale you made in a bad week. Cash sitting still for 2 years. A portfolio leaning hard on one thing. Every one of those has a paper trail. You can open a statement and see it. You can put a number on it, and if you sit down with your accounts for an afternoon, you can begin fixing all 4 before dinner. I am not calling them small. They are not small. But they are visible, they are countable, and they are correctable this month. And here is the thing about problems that are visible and countable. People eventually fix them. Not always fast, but eventually, because the evidence keeps showing up in front of them. Think about how each of those 4 announces itself. The missing emergency fund announces itself the first time a transmission goes, and you feel it immediately in the form of a credit card balance you did not have last month. The panic sale announces itself a few months later when the market recovers without you, and you do the arithmetic you did not want to do. The idle cash announces itself slowly in the gap between what your savings account pays and what everything costs. The crowded portfolio announces itself in one bad quarter for one company, and you find out how much of your future was leaning on that company. All 4 are unpleasant. All 4 are also, in a strange way, a gift, because they tell you they exist. Money problems that tell you they exist get solved. The first trap on that list is putting off starting. It does not have a statement. It does not have a fee line. There is no week you can point to and say, that is where it happened. Nothing arrives in the mail. And I want to be careful and honest here. Schwab published a list. Schwab did not rank them. Calling the first one the expensive one is my read, not theirs. But I will make the case, and I think by the end you will see why I keep coming back to it after all these years of these conversations. The other 4 cost you money you can count. This one costs you time you cannot get back. And time is the ingredient that makes money grow at all. Nobody says, I have decided to delay building wealth. What people say is this: when things settle down, when the promotion comes through, after the wedding, after the roof, once the kids are out of the house. Once I understand this stuff better. Once I have enough saved to make it worth starting. That last one is my favorite, and I mean that with sympathy, because it sounds like discipline. It sounds like waiting until you can do it properly. It is the most expensive sentence in personal finance, and it is dressed up as responsibility. None of those sentences are laziness. Every one of them is a person being reasonable about a genuinely busy life. But underneath all of them is one belief, and the belief is the trap, that somewhere ahead of you there is a calmer season, and the calmer season is where the real work will happen. I have never met it. I have never met a person who met it. The roof gets fixed and the car goes. The kids move out and a parent gets sick. The promotion arrives with the hours that come with a promotion. Life does not have a quiet stretch waiting for you in year 6. Life has this permanently in different costumes. Which means the plan of starting when things settle is not a plan at all. It is a way of saying no that does not feel like saying no. Now the part that makes this trap so quiet. When you overpay a fee, you can see the fee. When you sell in a panic, you can see the price you sold at and the price it came back to. Painful, but visible. When you delay, nothing happens. That is precisely the problem. Nothing happens and nothing keeps happening, and the absence of an event feels like the absence of a cost. But compounding is not paid in dollars. It is paid in time. Money that has been invested for 20 years is not twice as productive as money invested for 10. It is dramatically more than twice, because the growth itself has been growing. Schwab has an illustration of this that I like because it is unusually fair. Two people, each investing the same $3,000 a year, each doing it for exactly 10 years. Same discipline, same total, $30,000 each. The only difference is, one started 10 years before the other. By the end of the window, the early starter is ahead by roughly $120,000. Same effort, same money. The gap is made entirely of time. I want to be clear that a number like that depends on assumptions about returns, and your own result will not be that number. Take the shape of it, not the figure. The shape is what matters, and the shape is this. The person who started earlier did not work harder, they just started earlier. So here is what makes trap number 1 different from the other 4. The other 4 send you a bill. This one leaves a blank space. If you are 55 and you started at 45 instead of 35, there is no line in any statement showing you what the missing decade would have held. There is no notification. Nobody calls. There is just a number that is smaller than it would have been, and no way to feel the difference, because you never had the other version to compare it to. That is why this trap survives. Not because people are careless with it, but because it never presents itself for judgment. Now I have to stop and say something to a large part of the people watching, because everything I just said has an edge on it. If you are 55 or 62, and the decade I keep talking about is already behind you, then a video about starting early can land like an accusation. You cannot go back and start at 30. Nobody can hand you that decade. So let me be direct about it. The lesson of compounding is not that early people win and late people lose. The lesson is that the years you still have are worth more than the years you already spent thinking about it. That is true at 30, and it is exactly as true at 60. Here is what actually changes when you start later. The leverage moves. When you have 40 years, time does most of the work and the amount matters less. When you have 10 or 15, the amount matters more, and so do the levers that have nothing to do with markets. What your fixed costs are, when you stop working, whether a mortgage follows you into retirement, how long you keep some income coming in. Those are not consolation prizes. For someone starting later, they are usually more powerful than any investment decision, because they are things you control directly rather than things you hope for. And there is one more thing I have watched happen too many times to ignore. The person who decides at 55 that it is too late does not become neutral. They become a spender, quietly, because if the future is hopeless, there is no reason to protect it. That belief costs more than the missing decade did. The missing decade is a fact. What you do with the next one is not. Here is what I notice about the people who handle money well, and it is almost never what people expect. They are not more optimistic. Several of them are noticeably less optimistic than average. They are not better at math. Most of them are using arrangements a teenager could set up. What they do is refuse to wait for conditions. They assume, permanently, that life will stay messy, and then they make the first step small enough that a messy life cannot block it. Not the right amount. Not the optimal account. Not the perfect moment. Just small enough to survive a bad month. Because a small amount that continues beats a large amount that waits for the calm season. The small amount gets the one ingredient the large amount will never get back, which is time. Now let me stop myself, because there is a way to hear all of this that would make things worse. You could finish this video, feel a jolt of urgency, and try to fix all 5 traps in one weekend. Set up the accounts, build the emergency fund, rebalance everything, move the cash, and start contributing at a level you picked while feeling guilty. I have watched that movie. It ends about 6 weeks later with everything abandoned, and worse, with a person who now believes they are bad at this. Urgency is not the same thing as momentum. Urgency is loud and short. Momentum is quiet and boring, and it is what actually builds the number. So if you take one action from this, take 1, not 5. Rather than hand you another list, let me hand you 3 questions, because questions travel better than lists do. First, what is the smallest version of a first step I could take in the next 7 days? Not the right amount, the smallest amount that is still real. If it feels slightly embarrassing, you have probably found it. Second, what condition am I waiting for, and can I name it? Say it out loud. Then ask whether that condition has a date, or whether it is a feeling. Conditions with dates are plans. Conditions that are feelings tend to move as you approach them. Third, if I wait 1 more year, what specifically do I lose? Not a dollar figure, because neither of us knows that. A year. 1 year of the one thing you cannot buy later at any price. Sit with the third one longer than feels comfortable. Every person I know who finally started can point to a moment where that question got uncomfortable enough to move them. So let me put the whole thing back together. A very large firm listed 5 money traps. 4 of them are made of dollars. They are visible, countable, and fixable this month, and I hope you do fix them because they are real. The first one is made of time. It never sends a bill. It never gives you a bad week you can point to. It hides inside sentences that sound responsible. and it takes something you cannot replace at any income level. The calm season you are waiting for does not exist. It has never existed for anyone. And the answer is not urgency, because urgency burns out in 6 weeks. The answer is to make the first step so small that a chaotic life cannot stop it, and then let time do the part that only time can do. That is the whole idea, and it is why I keep saying that the wealthy habit is almost never the impressive one. It is the boring one that started early and never stopped. If this landed, tell me in the comments which of the 3 questions was the uncomfortable one, because the answers people give me there shape what I make next. And one honest note. I am not a licensed advisor, and this is general education about how money behaves, not advice about your situation. Schwab published the list of 5. The judgment about which one costs the most is mine, not theirs. Your own numbers depend on things I cannot see from here. I am Sam. This is Wealth Mindset, and I will see you in the next one.